Okay, later tonight, we start a revolution. Yes, another one. Oh, you stumbled on the right show, my friends. I'm not playing around with you. The fight back against Trump begins later in this hour. Not with protests, not with concern, with actual votes. We're going to go back and take a house tonight. Jesus, Lord mercy. But I do have a warning for you. We are told that it is impossible. Dun, 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 dun. Is it still a copyright violation if I say it really badly? Anyway, or sing it really badly. Okay, so don't go anywhere. In fact, sharing is caring. Share this broadcast right now, because I'm about to unveil a project a little bit later in this hour where we're going to do what the Democratic Party couldn't do, and we're going to go take back a house. I'm going to explain, okay? And show Trump who's boss. Damn, that's later in the show. Do you need any more teases than that? I'm going to give you one anyway. I'm going to tell you more about a new campaign we got coming up on Wednesday, including tomorrow's the 15th anniversary of the Young Turks. Oh my God, we're so old. This shirt, by the way, we're going to stop giving it out on Wednesday. Woo, okay, so all that's coming up. A KKK leader shot in the head. The Grand Wizard has been executed. But who executed him? Twisty Twist, second hour. Twisty Twist. Okay, today's been an insane day for me, and I got insane stories. Also, the nuclear football is loose, so... Oh my God, what has happened in this world? Okay, that's all in today's news. But we're going to start with fun, okay? Let's start with fun and Abraham Lincoln. All right, here we go. Okay. So it was Abraham Lincoln's birthday, so hey, that's great. Do I have it? Yeah. Okay, he didn't make it, but that's all right. Now, Donald Trump doing the right thing here. Wants to reach out and celebrate Lincoln's birthday. Now, this is not a hard thing. We can all agree to this as Americans, unite around it. So he tweets out, "Happy birthday, Abraham Lincoln." Okay, that's wonderful. And he says, and he has got a great quote from Lincoln. It says, "And in the end, it's not the years in our life that count. It's the life in your years." That's powerful. The GOP also does that. So the White House does it, and then the GOP does it, because they love Lincoln. Remember, it's the party of Lincoln. That's what I hear every time the right wing does something hateful. They're like, no, we're the party of Lincoln. No, we freed the slaves. That was us. I mean, a long time ago now, we're kind of against civil rights, but still, that was us. So they also, it's a powerful quote. And in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. Can you guess what's wrong here? Lincoln never said that. Of course! Okay. Jake Tapper tweets out, there is no evidence that Abraham Lincoln ever said this. It's fun. There's a slightly serious point to this story in a sec. Let me give you some fun tweets, of course, from the rest of the internet. Abraham Lincoln quote from Mara Wilson, "I'm not like the other girls." No, that was probably not Lincoln either. Abe Lincoln, "See you in court." That sounds more like Trump. This one I kind of like, but it's not exactly Lincoln either. "If you come at the king, you best not miss." I think that's The Wire, but I'm not positive. Okay. Then this one's good. We go to Bigley, which is already a fun name for a Twitter handle. Says, "Please clap. Things Lincoln didn't say." And then finally, from the rest of the internet, this is very appropriate. "Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Abraham Lincoln." Okay. Now, those are fun. I'm going to get to the serious point in a sec, but I decided to add a couple of my own. Why not? It turns out Lincoln also said, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog." Also didn't say that. Okay. Here's another famous Abraham Lincoln quote. "What you talking about, Willis?" Was that him? No, that's not him either. No. Okay. "Hasta la vista, baby." How about this one? "You're fired." I hope he doesn't get a statue. That's definitely not him. It's Trump. And then finally, apparently, Abraham Lincoln said, "Of course." All right. Now, look, it's a super minor story. I don't want anybody getting bent out of shape, and and Trump has plenty of things he does that are maniacal that you don't need to focus on stuff like this and take it too seriously. Having said that, it is slightly emblematic of how little homework they do. Like anyone who's mildly prepared, if it was a Gandhi quote that I've used before, I'd be like, I'm the president, let's double check. Now, I know that's not Trump doing it, right? It's some staffer. But that's the whole organization. They're like, double checking's for wussies. So, okay, we're not winning with double checking, okay? It's the first quote that comes to our head. We're going with it, okay? And we're going with it bigly. Just do your homework. On this, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. On issues like North Korea, it's a big deal. Please, for God's sake, it's an important office. Do your homework. Okay. So, that's fun. My favorite was, what you talking about, Willis? Old school. Now, speaking of which, that brings us to the next story in terms of how he doesn't do his homework. I already love this. Okay. Several stories out, New York Times, Politico, both having talked to dozens of staffers at the White House and in the administration. And it turns out, not good news, Donald Trump, a bit of a child. Now, this is exactly what we warned you about here. Let me give you specifics, though. New York Times explains, while Mr. Obama liked policy option papers that were 3 to 6 single-spaced pages, council staff members are now being told to keep papers to a single page with lots of graphics and maps. Oh, my God. Oh, the fate of the free world rides on this guy. Look, I've been there, brother. I mean, I was there when I was in 3rd grade, but still, okay? And I remember in law school, I'm just trying to get the hell out of there, and I filled it with graphs and maps. They're like 25 pages. I got 10 pages of maps. I got it, right? But you're the president of the United States. You're the commander-in-chief. Even the 3 to 6 pages that Obama had, I remember making fun of that. Like, hey, man, if they can't contain North Korean policy to 6 pages, let's read 7, right? So, but this guy's down to 1 page with lots of pictures. White House official said, quote, "The president likes maps." Oh my God, what have we done? And I'm just getting started. We're going to Politico. Okay, get a load of this opening sentence. Being president is harder than Donald Trump thought, according to aides and allies who say that he's growing increasingly frustrated with the challenges of running the massive federal bureaucracy. Oh, is it harder than you thought it was? Of course it's hard. You're the leader of the free world. You're the president of the United States. Oh, my God. Oh, what a child. What a child. Okay, again, this is according to not us, them, insiders. So here, in interviews, nearly 24 people who spent time with Trump in 3 weeks since his inauguration said that his mood has careened between surprise and anger as he's faced predictable realities of governing, from congressional delays over his cabinet nominations and legal fights holding up his aggressive initiatives to staff infighting and leaks. Guys, this is why I told you during the primaries when he lost Iowa and he said, it turns out there's this thing called a ground game. I didn't know that. You got to get out the vote. Like, forget that he lost Iowa. Forget everything else about it except for Jesus, who goes into a presidential race. It's the first contest. It's the most important contest. And you don't know you have to get out the vote. That's a guy who never, ever does his homework. That's a spoiled brat. Now, when you have that guy inside the White House and he's like, turns out there's going to be infighting. And sometimes the courts won't let me do what I want. I didn't know I wasn't king. He doesn't know anything about our government. What have we done, America? What have we done? It doesn't get any better. Trump often asks simple questions about policies, proposals, and personnel. And when discussions get bogged down in details, the president has been known to quickly change the subject to seem, quote, to seem in control at all times, one senior government official said, or direct questions about details to his chief strategist, Steve Bannon, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, or House Speaker Paul Ryan. Let's pause there for a second. You guys have all met a guy like this that's insecure, And if he gets caught flat-footed, which in Trump's case is almost always, it's like, oh, yeah, I didn't want to talk about that anyway. Yeah, we're talking about something else. Get a load of two pants over here. I want to talk about this. Anyway, Steve, go ahead, give him the answer. So, yeah, Steve Bannon is the president. Oh, for God's sake. Paul Ryan, Donald Trump doesn't even like Paul Ryan. They fought throughout the primaries. His Trump supporters were trying to get Paul Ryan fired. But now that he's president, he doesn't want to be president. He doesn't want to do the job. He likes the title. He likes the office, as you're about to see. But he's like, oh, presidenting. That is so hard. Paul, you go ahead and take it from here. Okay. Some NCS, that's National Security Council staff, believe Trump does not possess the capacity for detail and nuance required to handle sensitive issues discussed on the calls. They're afraid to tell him stuff because the child isn't going to understand it. He has the nuclear football. He has it. He's in charge of the most powerful military ever built by man. And his National Security Council thinks you can't talk to Joffrey because he's an idiot and doesn't understand simple statements and intelligence briefings and policy issues. God help us all. Now, look, some folks in the National Security Council don't like that he's politicized things. Kate McFarland has come in there and during what should be apolitical, nonpartisan discussions about national security, talking about how we're going to make America great again. They're like, this is not the campaign. You've got to focus here. Focus on the issues. So there are some people at the National Security Council not happy with Trump. Keep that in mind, and that is relevant in the leaks. So keep it real. That is part of this process, okay? So there's some people have a vested interest in making Trump look bad because they don't agree with him and they think he's a danger to the republic. They're likely right, but the details are confirmed by dozens of people. Now, let's go to one of his friends. He has every reason to stick up for Trump. It's Christopher Ruddy. He's been all over the news, Newsmax Media CEO, okay? So this guy's super right-wing. He runs a right-wing website, been friends with Trump for a while. He says, running the federal government is something new for him, for sure. I think if he's demonstrated anything in his life, he's a very fast learner and adapts very quickly. The man is not to be underestimated. He went in not knowing a damn thing. Yeah, of course running the federal government is new to him. It's new to everybody. That's why you study. That's why you get ready. And here's one of his best friends saying, yeah, of course he doesn't know anything. I mean, he'll pick it up. I mean, he's already president, but probably at some point he'll pick it up before we all die. But good luck, fast learner. Besides which, he likes maps. Okay, more from Politico. For all his frustrations, Trump has reveled in the trappings of the presidency. He has taken a liking to the Oval Office. Oh, God. Oh, God. This child is walking around like, oh, that's shiny. I like that. And they explain in the rest of the article, too painful to quote, how he brings people into the Oval Office and shows them around. Look, I know every president shows off the Oval Office. I know that. So I'm telling you here, keep it in check and grain of salt and all that, right? But within the context of everything else, when he's showing people shiny objects because he can't focus on past one page, then we've got a real issue in America. The president, who is obsessive about looks and appearance, even was unhappy with a Saturday Night Live parody of the Spicer briefing, partly because the combative press secretary was depicted by a female comedian, Melissa McCarthy. Spoiled brat bully. Going, yeah, Sean, they had a girl play you. Shiny object. Maps. Most powerful man on earth. The interviews paint a picture of a powder keg of a workplace where job duties are unclear, morale among some is low, factionalism is rampant, and exhaustion is running high. You know part of the reason why? He's now thinking of firing Mike Flynn for good reason. Reince Priebus because, I didn't like the way things started. That's not Reince Priebus, that's you, knucklehead. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Sean's being played by a girl. I'm thinking of firing him. And everybody's on edge. Oh, my God. And there's power struggles everywhere. You know why that happens? Because there's not someone in charge. If you were an actual effective manager, you would set the tone and you would be very clear. And you'd say, Reince Priebus is my chief of staff. Things are going to flow through him. I'm not going to undermine him 3 weeks in. I'm going to let him do his job. And here's the chain of command. And here's who you report to. Instead, Trump's like, who was in the room last? Who did I show the shiny object to? Squirrel. Oh, okay, Ryan's. Nah, no, not Ryan. So Sean, no, played by a girl. No, no. Oh, you child, you Joffrey. What have we done? Okay. Trump has privately expressed disbelief over the ability of judges, bureaucrats, or lawmakers to delay or even stop him from filling positions and implementing policies. Now, I know there's still a lot of Trump supporters out there. Come on, guys. He doesn't even know that a court can stop a president from doing some things because they have to check whether it's legal or constitutional. Come on, you know that, man. I don't care how alt-right you are. You took civics in 8th grade. You know that. You know we got 3 branches of government, and that the judiciary gets to decide what's legal and constitutional. That the executive branch is sometimes checked by the other 2 branches. You know that. This child doesn't know it. And he's the president. And he went in that unprepared. He's put all of us in grave danger. Finally, Politico reports the transition from overseeing a family business to running the country has been tough on him. Has it? Has it been tough on the baby? My God, man, you have a heavy, heavy responsibility. And if you as a man-child cannot bear it, step aside before you get all of us in a world of trouble. In your case, literally. So I don't care if your feelings are bruised. I don't care if you've been crying all night and you just like pictures and you don't like words. But for God's sake, this is a serious job. So remember, he's never had a boss. He's never had a real job. His daddy gave him $200 million to play with. And every time he screwed it up, his dad came and rescued him. $3.5 million in Atlantic City, $7 million on another project. Bailed him out, bailed him out, bailed him out. He went bankrupt 6 different times. I told you this. It wasn't partisan. It was because this guy is dangerously incompetent. He's a spoiled brat who's never actually had to work for a living. He goes into the White House and he's wandering around in a bathrobe and has no idea what to do and does not have the capacity to learn. We're all in a world of danger here. I don't know when the man-child leaves, but every day that he's in there is a danger to the Republic and, unfortunately, to the entire world. Okay, I got to take a break. When I come back, don't worry, we start the fight back against Donald Trump. I'm going to tell you exactly how we're going to do it. I know it's a very hard mission, but we're going to take that mission on and let's see what we can do with it. And wouldn't it be amazing if we got it done? I'll tell you all about it when we come back. Here's how we prove we're too strong. We're up for a shorty again. Let's crush the competition. We're actually up for 2 awards. Best News and Media, of course, and Best Overall YouTube Presence. Ooh, I'll sink your lawn. PewDiePie, we're coming for you. Okay, I don't know if he's nominated. Anyway, let's go win it. It'll annoy our competition. Those guys go, oh, yeah, no, but we're bigger or something. I mean, we don't have the numbers, but we can maybe. Well, how come we win the shorties, the streamies, and the webbies every year? By the way, it's not because of us, it's because of you guys. You're too strong. Let's go crush them. How you vote, you go into the description box below. You've got all the links there. We also made it tinyurl.com/TYTShorty2017. You could bother typing that in if you don't want to go to the links below and just click it. And you know what? You can vote every single day. So you can't vote more than twice a day. I don't want any voter fraud, okay? But you can vote every day. Let's go win those 2 shorties. Best Overall YouTube Presence, Washington. Go. All right, back on the Young Turks. The loose nuclear footballs in the next segment, and also Michael Flynn maybe getting fired. It's only a Russian agent. It's not a big deal, and he's only the head of the National Security Council. Not a big deal. That's in the next segment as well. In this segment, I've got some exciting news for you guys. First, a couple of tweets, which are also exciting, by the way. Marissa N. writes, TYT Network started when I was 11. 11. Talk about being ahead of the curve. The internet was a joke then. Way to go, Stutz. Internet, we always believed in you. Okay, Ruth Iverson. It's not the years in your life, it's the beers in your life. Another great Lincoln quote. An American in Canada writes in, Donald's new policy briefs will now be a 2-page paint by number. Oh boy. And Dave Edwin writes in, Trump's grotesque incompetence and unpreparedness is funny and cute until it isn't. Agreed. Okay, so let's go to news about us. Okay. What do I have here? Oh no, my jacket's just old. Okay. All right, we have been raising money for journalism, and journalism you have received. So we were doing a $2 million fundraising drive to hire 4 different investigative reporting teams. We've reached about $1.2 million. Guess what? We hired 2 teams, just like we told you. Nomi Constance, Sean King were in the first group. People are still crying about Sean King's post. They're, oh, but he's too progressive. Don't do it to us. Nomi immediately went on the trail and started following the DNC race. She interviewed everyone but Tom Perez, who was more of an establishment pick. And then they wouldn't grant her the interview until you guys rose up and said, that doesn't look good. And all of a sudden, we're doing an interview. Of course we're doing an interview. Right? God, I love having reporters. I love what you guys did in putting those guys out there. So Ryan Grimm, boom, gets Elizabeth Warren on the air immediately after they make her stop reading that letter. And she persisted. And he persisted, and you put him out there. And Michael Tracy's in the house here today in L.A. He finally made it from his cross-country journey, and guess who he interviewed on the way? Barrett Brown. Who else is interviewing Barrett Brown? Okay? That's how we roll, man. YouTube.com/TYTpolitics, and you've seen a lot of that on the Young Turks channel as well. So we're going to turn it on now. You see what Trump's doing. I mean, he's a menace to the world. I need more of them. I need more reporters. Today, we're trying to decide. Jordan's in North Dakota. He's got to get to East Chicago, Indiana. That's a story he broke, and now it's been declared a state of emergency there. By the way, Mike Pence, when he was governor of Indiana, did not declare it such. And now the new governor has, because Mike Pence was, as usual, dangerously negligent. Okay, and who exposed that? Our reporter Jordan Chariton did. New York Times followed. So what you guys have done is amazing. But let's do more. Let's get more teams out there because we don't have enough. We got to chase after Trump. We haven't broken a Trump story yet. We got to go get that, okay? So the tytnetwork.com/go. Now, our anniversary, our 15th year anniversary, I know it's crazy, is tomorrow. It's on February 14th, 2017. We started on February 14th, 2002 on Sirius Satellite Radio. On Wednesday, we're going to do a celebration show, so come check it out at tytnetwork.com/live. It starts at the regular show time at 6 o'clock Eastern, and it'll go all the way through old school, which brings you to past midnight Eastern. So another giant show for you guys. By the way, this shirt was amazing, and you guys took about 2,000 of them or so, but we're going to retire it this Wednesday. Wednesday's the last chance you get at getting this shirt. Go to tytnetwork.com/go. If you donate, it's not for the price of the shirt. If you donate for the journalism drive, $127, you get this shirt. $270 gets you the entire soundboard. Get me a Sarabies in there somewhere. Sarabies! Okay, you get that at $270. You get the T-shirt and the soundboard on a thumb drive. And at $1,000, we had rings, but we might have run out of the TYT rings. Anyways, okay, we're going to have a super cool new shirt that we're going to launch on Wednesday. By the way, both of these shirts designed by one of you guys, somebody in the audience. We loved it, and we decided to put it out there. You guys have loved it. But go ahead and panic, because this shirt goes away on Wednesday to never come back. The Sword in the Darkness. Last chance, tytnetwork.com/go. So extravaganza on Wednesday. Tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll go for our usual 6-7 hours. We'll get all the hosts. We'll get all the characters. But most importantly, when we get to $1.5 million, we're going to have to announce new investigative reporting team, and at $2 million, another one. And in the next round, by the way, there's a bonus. Oh, no. And that bonus is exciting. Now, I haven't let you down yet, right? We announced these guys, and you guys seem to like them a lot, right? Wait till you get a little the bonus. Can I see 1.5 million? tytnetwork.com/go. You guys are amazing, and you're changing the world together. Okay. And by the way, do you have the number up or no? No, never mind. We don't have it. But I will thank a couple of folks. $200 from Charlotte, from California. $127 for Andy from California. $127 from John in Georgia. You guys all get the shirt. Thank you so much, guys. Super appreciate it. And we'll have also new exciting announcements on Wednesday as well. So everybody stay tuned for that. Okay, now, let me just share one thing I shouldn't share with you guys. Okay, that's always fun. Let's go to the next story. So, something interesting happened. Actually, a couple of interesting things happened where I have heard through the grapevine, I'm going to put it this way because I have to leave out all the names, that some politicians are afraid of you. No, I don't mean me, and I don't mean TYT. I mean you, the audience. That there is now strategizing in Washington, I swear to God, and this is amazing, that's why I have to leave out the names. There's strategizing in Washington now about how do you deal with the Young Turks audience. Too strong! Way too strong! Damn, I love it! Okay? So, you know, it's not the hosts, and, you know, they got to come straight if they're going to come on the Young Turks, and they know that, right? And they got to make sure that they come correct. But what they're worried about is the audience reaction. And on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, comments, and then the internet starts buzzing. Okay, so we wanted to build a digital campfire where everybody gathered around and talked about the issues. We've done it. You guys gave us reporters. Those reporters are now your soldiers in the field. And when they see a TYT reporter, I swear to you, they're like, oh, damn, be careful. Awesome. Okay, you did that. tytnetwork.com/go. So that's the journalism fund. We already hired 2 investigative reporting teams. We're going to hire another team. Go, engage, fire, right? Give us more of those ground troops. Fire at will. Okay, all torpedoes. Well, we need 2 more torpedoes. Get those at 1.5 and 2 million. But don't worry about that. I just want you guys to know you have more power than you realize. When people start wandering around the halls of power going, is TYT Army here? Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Oh, I love your strength. I love it. There's nothing we can't do together. Just sorry that I got to leave out the names because it's sensitive stuff, but I wanted to share with you because it's so empowering. It's empowering for me. You should be empowered by it. And I believe in you, and I believe we can change the world together. And this is a great, great start. Where's TYT Army? Sorry, they're everywhere. Okay, just a quick little update. Okay, now, how are we going to change the world? Let's do it. Let me show you. So there's been a lot of consternation about Donald Trump. Oh my God, he's elected. There's a lot of protests. There's a lot of hashtags going around. We're going to do something a little different. We're actually going to fight back. And by fight back, I don't mean protest. I mean votes. I mean, let's go get houses back. What do you mean houses? Well, at the national level, of course, we have elections every 2 years. So all of the House of Representatives will be up in 2018, and then a third of Senate. You know how that works, and the president comes due in 4 years, we think. But at the state level, there are special elections all the time. Did you know that in the state of Connecticut, they lost the Senate? That's the state of the Democratic Party now. It's a tie right now. The Senate in Connecticut, one of the bluest states there is in the country, the Senate is purple. It's an absolute tie. But here's a unique opportunity. There's a special election coming up in 2 weeks. There's actually 2 seats open. One is much more likely to be won by the Democrat. That is a solidly blue seat. Let's hope the Democratic Party doesn't screw that up. Okay, the other seat is Greg Cava. This is Senate District 32 in Connecticut. Now, let's see if we can do something miraculous together. Now, when we talk to the establishment in Connecticut, come on, guys. That's a very Republican district within Connecticut. In fact, the Republican won that race recently with 67% of the vote. It was 67 to 32. No, actually, if you round up, 68 to 32. You can't win that seat. Oh, really? Well, let's give it a shot. So, if we win that seat, a couple of things are going to happen. You would flip one of the state legislatures back to blue. Now, the Democrats by themselves, let's keep it real, couldn't do it. They've lost 69 out of 99 state legislatures, even in deeply blue states like Connecticut. But maybe you and I can do it. Now, I'm going to show you how, because I'm not into pipe dreams and I'm not into things that are impractical, and I'm not going to waste your time. Yeah. If the pundits say it's impossible, that I don't give a damn about, okay? But how are we going to do it? Well, so now there's a couple ways that you could volunteer here. One is just go to his website. Greg Cava's the guy who's running for the Democrats, cava17.com. Now, I don't know Greg at all, so I'm not endorsing every view he has, and I'm not saying that he's going to be able to organize you in the ways that he needs to in the next 2 weeks, because the election's on February 28th, okay? And I don't coordinate with him. I don't do anything with him, okay? But I do know guys who are on the ground who are excellent at organizing. Now, they're Wolfpack. Now, why does Wolfpack care about this race? Now, Wolfpack is nonpartisan, so they don't care about Trump or anything like that. They just want to get money out of politics. The reason Wolfpack cares is the guy Greg Cava is running against already voted to keep money in politics when he was in the House, the Connecticut House. He voted for corruption. He's got to go. He's got to go. Look, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You vote for corruption. You vote to keep money in politics. You vote to get privately financed and keep on taking that money from your donors. You got to go. That's why Wolfpack cares. They're nonpartisan, but this is an issue where these two things can come together. So go to Allison at wolf-pack.com. Now, I need you to do two things. So when you send her an email, and they will get back to you right away. She's one of the national directors of Wolfpack, Allison at wolf-pack.com. We need two different things, ground troops and air troops. So ground troops are, if you live in Connecticut or you're nearby, we're going to go knock on every door. So the reason Democrats lose races is because they pay these consultants, these huge fees. They're like, oh, we've got a great program. We're going to do flyers and we're going to do TV and newspaper ads and radio. Yes, how else would you like to reach 98-year-olds? The reason they do it is, I know older people vote, don't get me wrong. But the main reason they do it is because they keep a percentage. We don't do any of that. You know what we do? We go knock on doors and we make our case. We make our case. And you know what? Even Republicans vote with us when we say, hey, that guy wanted to keep money in politics. Are you in favor of that? Are you in favor of that kind of corruption? No, you got to get him out. You got to get him out. So whether you care about showing Trump, and by the way, the Democratic Party, hey, this is how it's done. This is how you win. This is not a protest. This is power. This is how we get power back. You can recapture a state legislature. That is so exciting. So if you're in Connecticut, you got to go out there, contact Allison right now. And they've done this at Wolfpack in every state. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're going to have you do to get out there and actually win this race. And the second thing is we need Air Force. So what is Air Force? So you live in California, you live in Hawaii, you live in Florida, you can't get to Connecticut. No problem. We're going to call all those folks. Now, it's not for us to say to those folks, okay, this is our opinion, you should. No, what you do is you call them and you have a conversation. And if they're Republicans and they don't want to go in that direction, I hear you, brother. They're independents, they don't agree. They're Democrats, they don't agree. That's totally fine. That's called democracy. But at least we're going to try. We're going to do something different. It's called effort. And so if you can make phone calls, we only have 2 weeks. If you're in Connecticut, ground troops, get out there, knock on doors, call these people. Now, the great news about this is, yes, the downside is it's 68 to 32 ain't no joke. Ain't nothing to mess with, right? The upside is everybody in the establishment has written it off. Oh, Connecticut is unwinnable. That they have that special election, but that's a safe Republican district. You folks trying to actually win. Well, that's cute, isn't it? They're trying to win. Connecticut, it's a blue state. What are you doing? Yes, we're going to try to win. Yes, we're going to try to get power back. That's the whole point. So, and by the way, you live in Connecticut and you don't go do this, I don't want to ever see you at a protest. Because this matters 1,000 times more than any protest. And by the way, if you're a Republican that works with Wolfpack throughout the country, great, we love you, brother, and we don't run against you. But if you aren't going to vote against us, this army also could be headed in your direction. Also true of Democrats. You want to vote against us? Some folks do. They think, oh, it's cute to keep money in politics. No, it isn't cute, and we will come for you. So now, let me end on an optimistic note, because randomly this weekend, I was reading Martin Luther King, as I like to do from time to time. I'm just going to give you a couple of Martin Luther King quotes, because I love him too much. So should we act now? Well, here's what Reverend King says. The time is always right to do what is right. The time is always right to do what is right. Well, this seems improbable. Should we even bother taking the first step? Reverend King, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Allison at wolf-pack.com. Final quote for you guys from the King. When our days become dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in the universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil, a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Let us realize the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So, in Connecticut, we seek justice. And if you guys do this, you get all the credit. No one else thinks it's doable. But I think it's doable, and I think you think it's doable. So let's go out there and do it. Shock the world and take power back. Young Turks.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United! We are! We are! Too strong!
There's thousands of volunteers, and you could be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy.
96% of Americans want it.
When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock.
We're coming for them!
wolf-pack.com.
right, back on the Young Turks. Let me read some quick tweets for you guys. Dropkick Kimmy. Oh, interesting title. Says, thanks to TYT anniversary, I no longer loathe Valentine's Day. It's officially TYT Day for me from now on. That's awesome. All right. Thank you. Jimmy Brandon says, we scare the establishment. We are the sword in the darkness. That's right. I'm wearing the sword in the darkness shirt today. So tytnetwork.com/go. Decognition writes in, TYT mentions Greg Cava, Cava17.com immediately crashes. I don't know if that's true, but if it did, well, that's what happened. Okay, don't worry. Allison with one L, Allison at wolf-pack.com, and we will get you to the right place, and we'll get you fighting in no time. And Bill Wetzel says, I feel like the coach just gave us an ass-kicking halftime speech. That wasn't me. That was Martin Luther King. Okay, and one last thing about that. Oh, by the way, on the Connecticut campaign, we don't want money. They say this isn't about money. This is about volunteers. This is about actually winning, and you do that with real human beings on the ground and on the phones, okay? And speaking of tytnetwork.com/go, 127 from Philip in Florida, 127 from Kevin in New York, 127 from Jackie in Virginia. So whoever wants to stay. Whoever wants run. Okay, let's go to Mar-a-Lago. Or let's not. But all right. So over the weekend, Donald Trump is having Prime Minister of Japan over, Shinzo Abe, and that's wonderful and good. They're going to play some golf. They're going to relax a little bit. Rock and roll, okay? And they have a good relationship. Everybody's happy. Unfortunately, someone comes over to dinner a little uninvited, and that's Kim Jong-un. And North Korea, he didn't literally come over to Mar-a-Lago. That would have been amazing. He launched intermediate-range ballistic missiles, and of course, these are tests. They didn't actually land on land against our allies, but that is very concerning, and we did not know it was coming. So it is basically testing Trump. Now, the number one place that North Korean missiles can hit is South Korea. And if we get into a conflict with them, millions of lives could be lost in South Korea. The number two place it could hit is Japan. And there's a Prime Minister of Japan right next to Donald Trump. So this is a very interesting moment. How will Trump react? First, let me just say that we have not invaded North Korea. Okay, that would not have been the right thing to do. We've got to be more careful than that, so we dodged the bullet on that one. You never know when Trump's thin skin is challenged what he'll do. Okay, now the Prime Minister is there. Now he wants to talk tough against North Korea. That's good. You should, and you should take real actions, but sanctions and other actions that don't provoke actual war. Now, let's show you what Kim Jong-un was doing over the weekend. So this is him looking at the missile test theoretically. Whether that's actually happening is another question. But the test did happen. Whether he's looking at it and actually seeing it as something else, of course. With anything involving Kim Jong-un, I always find it a little Kim Jong-un believable. But yes, it did happen in this case. Okay, so that is the North Koreans over the weekend. Now, in America, where Donald Trump was hosting the Prime Minister of Japan, a little bit more regal, I guess, as Trump would think, surroundings, he's at Mar-a-Lago, one of his properties down in Florida. Now, they're calling it the Winter White House, and they've already doubled the price of membership because the president's always there and he's mingling with the guests. Now, under normal circumstances, that's already problematic because it's a conflict of interest. But in the case of a national emergency, in fact, an international emergency, a little weird. Well, let's see how he handles it. So we've got pictures from Mar-a-Lago as well. So there is the president and the prime minister huddled over a table talking about, I'm not kidding, they're talking about the North Korea situation, top secret stuff, but they're in the middle of the dining area at Mar-a-Lago with all sorts of citizens that are not part of the government at all, milling around, including waiters. And then it gets, look at the surroundings there. Those are not all government officials. There's waiters coming in, they keep serving dinner. They found out during the salad that North Korea had launched, and all these staffers come in, and the waiters keep coming and serving other parts of the meal. Okay, fine, they're on the patio, but there's other private citizens all around. They're talking about absolutely top secret stuff, in the middle of everyone. And people are taking pictures and they're tweeting it out and they're putting it up on Facebook. And then apparently it got dark outside, so staffers started taking their cell phones and turning the flashlight in the cell phones so they could read the top secret intelligence briefings. Oh my God, what are you doing? Get inside. First of all, there's lights inside. Second of all, that stuff is top secret. Remember, they chanted lock her up because she had a private email server. They said that was a problem for national security. I said it was a problem for national security. What you just saw there is 1,000,000 times bigger for national security. They're like, oh, North Korean documents on missiles. Anybody want to see? Anybody want to see? Here, somebody put a flashlight on it. Are you kidding me? At least, I don't know if it's secured. There's no way that these knuckleheads have secured rooms at Mar-a-Lago. They should. The guy's the president of the United States. He will have moments like this. But at least get inside, for Christ's sake. It's going to get worse, okay? So there they are discussing and watching all this stuff. Then let me show you one more picture from that. And people start putting it up on Facebook. So this guy puts up a Facebook post saying, oh, I'm sitting here with at Mar-a-Lago, and the president seems to be doing something very important, and there's the prime minister, and the head of the National Security Council has come in. This is not public, and everybody's seeing it. Then let's go to the next picture. This is Trump looking a little bored by the whole thing. Like, I guess what are we going to do with it, huh? Yeah, it's on Instagram. What are you gonna, I hope they got a good price for being at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, now, they apparently prepare a joint statement that Trump is supposed to read, but he doesn't. Now, there's a possibility that he didn't read it because they changed their mind at the last minute. There's another possibility is that Trump is a schmuck, and he's like, what am I going to do, read this whole thing, and it's not even on a prompter. I'll just say how much I like the Japanese. Well, you decide, here's the tape. First, you see the Japanese prime minister, and then Trump steps in. And this is the entirety of his statements on this incredibly important moment.
North Korea's most recent missile launch is absolutely intolerable. North Korea must fully comply with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. President Trump and I myself completely share the view that we are going to promote further collaboration between the two nations. During the summit meeting that I had with President Trump, he assured me that the United States will always with Japan 100%.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. I just want everybody to understand and fully know that the United States of America stands behind Japan, its great ally, 100%. Thank you.
That was it. And of course, the schmucks left the paper out in front of him and the reporters saw it. It turns out it had a whole bunch of things he was supposed to say, like we're going to safeguard and protect against North Korea's provocative acts, specific language that you use to check North Korea. But since they're at Mar-a-Lago and not at the White House, there's no teleprompters. And he's like, we're going to win big. We're going to support him 100%. I'm done with it. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's going to get much worse. So that same guy who took the pictures of them hanging out, having dinner, talking about top secret stuff, took a picture of the guy that holds the nuclear football. I'm not kidding. And he put it on Facebook. Take a look at this. Now, luckily they blacked out the face. This is some random schmuck in the tie who it pays way too much money to be at Mar-a-Lago, but he's thinking, it's well worth it. I put my kerchief in, I go over there, and there's the nuclear football guy. My God, you're just telling the whole world, the guy who has the nuclear codes, all you got to do is pay to go to Mar-a-Lago, and you can just get him. He's just floating around, and we're putting him on Facebook. I mean, we talked about how dangerous it would be for Donald Trump to become president because he holds the nuclear codes. Look at how careless he is with it. And they criticized Hillary Clinton for being careless with national security information. At least she wasn't throwing a nuclear football around in Palm Beach. Jesus Christ, what have you done, America? They have got to get a hold of this security a lot better. So now, of course, the man-child known as Donald Trump, he can't pay attention and focus on this incredibly important missile situation in North Korea. So as all this stuff winds up, you know what he does? He goes into another room where there's a wedding going on because they're paid guests. You're the president! Screw your paid guests, right? No, he goes, and he comes out and he says, I saw them out on the lawn today. I said to the Prime Minister of Japan, I said, come on, Shinzo, let's go over and say hello. Come on, Shinzo, let's go over and say hello. That's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And then he says, because he has no tact and he has no filter, he adds at the end about the couple getting married. They've been members of this club for a long time. They've paid me a fortune. That's what he's worried about. If North Korea launched against South Korea or Japan, millions of people would die. That's as serious as a heart attack. And this goofball is wondering who paid him a fortune at Mar-a-Lago and whether they're getting their money's worth by getting to see national secrets happening right in front of them. Unbelievable. Jesus, America, what have you done? Okay, I got one last story for you guys. Okay, real quick. Okay. Mike Flynn, head of the National Security Council, God help us all, in a world of trouble. He has been communicating with the Russians. Now, we knew already before he got in office that he was paid by the Kremlin to speak at a gala event in December of 2015. We know that he regularly communicated with the Russian ambassador to the U.S., so he sat next to Vladimir Putin at that gala, and they seemed like best of friends. Well, he got paid to be, so I guess that makes sense. What we didn't know until very recently was, turns out that Flynn was communicating with the Russian ambassador. So the day that Obama, when he was president, put sanctions on Russia, Mike Flynn, who was set to be National Security Council head, called the Russian ambassador not once, not twice, not three, not four. He called him 5 times. Jesus, who is this guy working for? Okay, Wall Street Journal reports. Mr. Flynn initially said that in a conversation December 29th with the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, he didn't discuss sanctions imposed that day by the outgoing Obama administration, which were levied in retaliation for alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Mr. Flynn now concedes that he did. Administration officials said after transcripts of his phone calls show as much. So let's pause there to go over how stupid this guy is. All right, so he's so brazen that he's going to call a Russian ambassador and say, hey, it's okay. Don't worry, Trump's got your back. He's going to call him 5 times. And this knucklehead doesn't realize we might be tapping the phone of the Russian ambassador. You're going to be the head of the National Security Council and you didn't think that through? These guys are painfully stupid. They don't even do corruption well. Now, so he lied about it and he got caught because we have the transcripts. Yeah, we were tapping the guy's phone. He's the Russian ambassador. Okay. He also admits that he spoke with the ambassador more than once on December 29th, despite weeks of the Trump teams insisting it was just one phone call, officials said. Oops. Now, Wall Street Journal further explains if Mr. Flynn had promised any easing of sanctions once Mr. Trump took office, he may have violated a law that prohibits private citizens from engaging in foreign policy, legal experts have said. So chalk up another legal violation to the Trump team, because obviously on December 29th, they had not taken office yet, and he was a private citizen. The transcripts of the conversations don't show Mr. Flynn made any sort of promise to lift the sanctions once Mr. Trump took office, the officials said. Rather, they show Mr. Flynn making more general comments about relations between the two countries improving under Mr. Trump, people familiar with them said. By the way, it is true that in the National Security Council and in the government, there are people who are not big fans of Mike Flynn or Donald Trump or what they've done to our government. So that is why all of a sudden you're getting all these leaks. But what happened in those phone calls is true. The leaks are accurate. And now even Mike Flynn has acknowledged that they are accurate and that he was lying about them all throughout. Okay, we're going to give him a tiny bit of credit here because in the 5 calls, he didn't at least say, oh, yes, sir, I work for you, sir. I will immediately lift the sanctions, sir. Instead, he said, don't worry. When the Trump administration comes in, we will be much more favorable to the Russians. So that's as savvy as a Trump person gets. Okay, now they explain that the White House is reviewing whether to retain the National Security Advisor, Mike Flynn, amid a furor of his contacts with Russian officials before President Donald Trump took office, an administration official said on Sunday. So he's apparently on the chopping block. And they say administration officials promised that he has, quote, apologized to everyone, because he told, for example, the Vice President, Mike Pence, that he had not done these calls. He lied to Mike Pence. Mike Pence said it in public, and apparently Pence is super pissed about that. And even Trump said he would, quote, look into the disclosures. So, SpaghettiOs. Now, you know that the knives are out because Chris Christie, who can't wait to get into the administration, sees an opening. So he goes on TV with fake concern. Watch.
If General Flynn did tell the Russian ambassador something along the lines of, don't worry about these sanctions President Obama is imposing, we're going to revisit them later, would that trouble you?
Well, listen, I don't think that you can have any more than one president at a time. And, you know, General Flynn has said up to this point that he had not said anything like that to the Russian ambassador. I think now he's saying that he doesn't remember whether he did or not. So that's a conversation he's going to need to have with the president and the vice president. But I've always been a person who believed that you have one president at a time, and that's the way things should be done.
If General Flynn lied to the vice president, what should the consequences be?
Well, that would be up to the vice president and the president. And so I'm sure that there'll be conversations between the vice president, the president, and General Flynn to make sure that everybody gets the accurate story on this matter. And then they'll act as they see fit, given all the circumstances.
Why is Chris Christie even on TV? You know why? He's like, hey, Mike, come here for a second. Under a bus you go. Okay. Chris Christie's there to throw him under a bus. And he says things like, there's only one president at a time. Really? That had to be stated, let alone stated twice? Did anybody think there's two presidents at a time? No, in other words, he's saying, Trump, are you going to do something about this, or are you going to let them undermine your authority? Come on, Donald. You're a man, aren't you? You're the only president, right? Somebody's not pulling your strings, right, Donald? You're going to let Mike Flynn get away with this? No, better to fire him and put me in there. Oh, did I say that? I'm not saying anything. Yeah, Chris, I wonder why you're on TV. I can't quite tell. And finally, an official has said that on Mike Flynn, quote, the knives are out. There's a lot of unhappiness about this. This is just the beginning. There will be many knives and many infighting stories from the Trump administration because Trump is not really in charge. So people are constantly vying to be the decision maker. And Trump lets him get away with it because he's a child who doesn't like to do his homework. So he hands off policy to the last guy he spoke to. So this is just the beginning. Flynn might go out soon, but there'll be a lot more where this came from. All right, I'm out of time. Anna's coming up in the next hour. We've got a ton of stories for you, including a KKK Grand Wizard gets killed. It looks like an execution. It's a headshot. But what actually happened? We'll tell you when we come back.
I made a decision that I hate male models. I know this is very, very random, but I was looking at a billboard coming in, and there's a dude for a Banana Republic outfit commercial. First of all male models have to look like this. They can never smile. They're always like all serious and like, oh, please.
So obviously, Cenk, you don't know the 3 C's of fashion.
Oh, I
you know
definitely
3 C's
don't.
of fashion?
Of course not. What
it's
the hell?
Catalog, commercial, and couture.
Dude, when did you start sleeping with guys?
So I'm sitting next to someone who regularly poses in pictures for his social media in a way that Cenk would definitely talk shit about. Look at, oh God, I wish Cenk was here to comment on this picture. I love it. Haas, I hate saying this about you, but some of these pictures are fire.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong, because you should be angry. Young Turks.
But it was genuine. He was mad. Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name?
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
What kind of TV station is this? The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It was right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power.
We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world. We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
Television, we're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
If Phil and host beat CNN and headline news combined, at some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a tall glass of shut-up juice.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him.
He says to me, you won't believe the meeting that I just had.
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air.
Cenk took an incredible risk.
We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I should be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing a national show. I guarantee it.
Out there on this frontier we call the internet, there's a lot of bad folks out to get you. For years, corporate media barons and right-wing rustlers have tried to keep the status quo around these parts. But lucky for us, there's a man who's fighting back. They call him Cenk Uygur, a.k.a. the original outlaw, a.k.a. El Jefe. He just rode into town slinging the truth.
All right, back on the Young Turks. You're out of experience. Jesus of Lord mercy. What's happening? Okay, panic time. Only a couple of days left before we retire the Sword in the Darkness shirt. You can get that at tytnetwork.com/go if you give $127 for real investigative journalism in America. Speaking of which, $50 from Bonnie in Guatemala. Guatemala chipping in to get real journalism in America. God bless. Thank you, Bonnie. And Oliver from Ohio, also $50. Thank you, guys. By the way, members of the day, Lisa and Ben Douglas and Niels Gable. So members get, of course, a post game. Today, I have a very special post game. We found something in the Young Turks archives. I will explain what this is, who signed it, and why it is so relevant, okay? This is from 25 years ago.
Jeez.
And there is a very important person on the back of this card. The front of the card is from Dave Kohler. Okay, it's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
tytnetwork.com/join to become a member. Let me read a couple of quick tweets for you, Anna. Nick says about Trump, this moron is waving around national security briefings in public. Brace for fucking impact. I hear you on that, brother. Tender loving care says worst thing is that the uncensored pictures of the nuclear guy are out there showing his face. That's true. Before they were censored and before they were pulled down from Facebook, the Mar-a-Lago attendee took a picture with the guy carrying the nuclear football and put it uncensored on the internet.
It sounds like the Trump administration is very prepared and they think things through before they act.
Okay, your mama asked a very good question. Why is CNN asking Chris Christie anything about Michael Flynn or Russia? Yeah, Chris Christie's the governor of New Jersey. In other words, Chris Christie's trying to get into the administration. CNN knows it. Everybody knows it. In the old days, nobody would have even talked about it. It would just happen, and the people at home would have no idea. They wouldn't even think about it. They'd be like, oh, Chris Christie has this opinion about this, right? Now, because of the internet, people like your mama even figured it out. Okay?
He has no shame.
No, he doesn't.
No shame at all. I mean, Chris Christie is an embarrassment.
He's embarrassing is what he is. That's because his popularity is down in the 20s in New Jersey, right? And so he's like crawling, trying to get into the administration. Please, Massa, let me in. Remember when he was standing behind him?
Yes.
Remember when he got sent on the plane and he never even got an administration position? Oh, that's the saddest and most wonderful thing. And to your point, Anna, I'm a Derpy Panda says, you can see how desperate Christie is to join the cool kids table.
Yeah.
Oh, if Trump's got the... whatever she said. And if you think that Trump is the cool kids table, oh boy.
Yeah.
That's sadder than we even realized. All right, Casper, what do you got for us?
All right. Over the weekend, there was panic in various states throughout the country as federal agents conducted a number of enforcement raids in at least 6 states. Now, more data has come out in regard to this, and it turns out that these raids took place in as many as 11 states, and they arrested a total of about 600 people. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is saying that 75% of the individuals who were detained had convictions or prior convictions, but the rest did not. So there are a lot of myths in regard to what happened over the weekend, and so I'm going to compare both the Trump administration and the Obama administration and kind of give you a fair and balanced view of what happened, okay? So first of all, let me just say, when the raids first started happening, and of course news spread through social media, I panicked because you didn't really hear too much about the raids that happened under Obama's administration. But before I get into the details of what's happening under Trump's administration, just know that Obama did a ton of these raids as well. In fact, in 2012, he detained about 400,000 individuals, and he did deport 2 million over the course of his presidency.
So just real quick, on the federal court case that Trump has in regards to the travel ban, I explained in a video I did over the weekend that, look, I can't stand the travel ban. I think it's terrible, terrible policy. But he might actually win the court case once the court actually hears the full case. And some people are like, well, I don't get it. Are you for Trump or against Trump? No, that's not how it works. You judge case by case. So if he gets rid of the TPP, that's great. I'm not going to criticize him because I'm on the other team. It doesn't work that way. So in this case, yeah, we can disagree with what Trump did, and we will. But you also have to know the real facts. So in the case of the travel ban, Obama's travel ban was much different than Donald Trump's, and we give you the real facts on this. And in this case, well, we've got the facts on this, and then you decide which way you want to go with it.
So there are similarities in that Obama aggressively also went after undocumented immigrants. Obama also did these raids, but the raids usually took place in the middle of the night. And Trump's administration has decided to do these raids in the middle of the day, kind of to send a strong message to undocumented immigrants in the country and show that he's planning on being a little more harsh. Now, he's also broadened the profile of individuals that ICE should go after. So let me give you the details on that. Now, first, immigration officials confirmed that agents this week raided homes and workplaces in Atlanta, Chicago, New York, the Los Angeles area, North Carolina, and South Carolina, netting hundreds of people. Again, around 600 people were arrested. Now, last month, Trump substantially broadened the scope of who the Department of Homeland Security can target to include those with minor offenses or no convictions at all. Now, again, the Department of Homeland Security says that 75% of the people that they detained had prior convictions. The rest, no, not really. Those are individuals that wouldn't be targeted under Obama's administration. But nonetheless, to be fair and very clear, these types of raids did happen in the previous administration as well.
So, first of all, I don't care if they happen at night or the day. That's just photo ops. Who cares? I care more about the policy. Second of all, we told you 100 times that Barack Obama had broken the record on deportations. Deported over 2 million people under his watch, much more than George W. Bush. So, if you've been watching the Young Turks, that is not news to you. And then, of course, he did that because he thought, oh, the Democrats will get some Republican votes. How'd that turn out? He had been, by a lot of immigration experts' estimations, draconian in how much he went after immigrants here in this country. So, and then, by the way, lo and behold, the Democratic nominee did not get as high a vote in the Latino community as she thought she was going to, because they see this apparently with Obama night in, night out. So now, of course, Trump takes it to 11. Right?
Exactly.
Takes it to a next level and even worse.
So immigration officials acknowledged that as a result of Trump's executive order, authorities had cast a wider net than they would have last year. So they're saying, look, we're targeting more people than before. But they're also saying, well, the majority of people that we have targeted, 75%, had criminal convictions. So there were some, anecdotes that were shared in the media. One case of someone who was a gang member from El Salvador. That person got detained and deported back to his country. But it is interesting to see the type of reaction these raids are getting as opposed to the raids under Obama. Now, under Obama, the raids happened and you didn't see as much criticism from the left. The raids are happening under Trump's administration. Again, they're accelerated, they're amplified, and there's panic everywhere, right? So I don't like that double standard, okay? There should be panic in both cases, especially if the raids are targeting people who aren't criminals. And by the way, anyone who's here in an undocumented fashion is breaking the law, right? So they're all considered criminals in one way or another. I don't agree with targeting people who are here and they don't get involved in criminal or violent activity. But I mean, under Trump's definition, anyone who's here and anyone who's undocumented while they're here is a criminal.
And so there's a difference between undocumented and illegal, and immigration advocates would, strongly argue that what they're doing is coming in without papers. That's true, but that is not necessarily illegal in and of itself. Now, Trump does not, as Anna just pointed out, doesn't agree with that and says if you come here, it is by definition illegal and hence you're a criminal, right? So that is a totally different standard. Now, look, again, what do I think? When Obama wanted to find felons, people who had actually broken a law here, a serious law, and it was a felony, and wanted to deport them, no problem, okay? Of course, I totally agree with that, and I think most reasonable Americans would agree with that. You came here and you broke a serious law, you gotta go, okay? You were here undocumented in the first place, and then you're committing criminal activity. That's not a close call, okay? So now when you say, all right, now we're gonna go to misdemeanors, and then we're gonna go to things, other infractions, and hey, you got a speeding ticket once. Okay, that's an infraction. Now we're getting to a point where it's a little bit more reign of terror, to be honest, right? And it affects so many families. Then when you say, okay, now everybody's illegal by definition, well, then you can't go any broader than that, and that means you're going to try to root out 11 to 12 million people here and somehow kick them all out. Now, to be fair to Trump, And actually, I've now seen anecdotal evidence of his voters and independents saying, hey, you know what? That's what we voted for. And he's a rare guy who's doing what he said he was going to do. Most politicians come into office and do the opposite. He told you he was going to kick him out, and he's kicking him out. So where's the panic coming from? I agree with you. It's terrible, terrible policy. I didn't like it under Obama. Now that Trump has made it much broader, I hate it under Trump.
Right.
But that's what he said he was going to do. That's why we told you to vote against him.
Right. Well, I think that there was this widespread idea during the election that Donald Trump was just the kind of person who would say crazy things and he would never follow through on it. But now we know, without a shadow of a doubt, that he follows through on his promises. And this is one of the more concerning promises, especially when you think about, you know, just how nuanced an issue like this is. People like to think of things as black and white, like immigrants bad or immigrants good. No, it's way more nuanced than that. If you look at the GDP in California alone, undocumented immigrants contribute billions of dollars, right, to our economy. And that's the reason why state lawmakers wanted to make California a sanctuary state. Now, it doesn't matter what state lawmakers want, because if the feds want to come in and do these raids, they can go ahead and come in and do these raids. I think that's one of the reasons why California was targeted. But again, these are people, the law-abiding immigrants, these are people who are contributing to the economy, and a lot of businesses would be in a lot of trouble if they all got deported.
So let me say the last couple of things here. I'm going to be really interested in what happens when that situation happens that Anna just pointed out. When the rubber hits the road and all of a sudden, because they've done this before in some of the southern states, they kicked out all the undocumented immigrants and then panicked because nobody was working at the factory. No matter how high they paid, they couldn't get people to work at the factories or the farms. And so then they had to bring them back. So when he goes to kick them out in mass scale, he might get more than he bargained for. Number two, he keeps half his promises. Let's be clear about that. So the draconian promises he does keep. Talking about draining the swamp, that promise, not so much.
That's like the most important promise that he didn't follow through on.
Yeah,
Right.
the corruption he's totally in favor of, and he stacked this cabinet with Republican donors who are looting the place as we speak. Finally, credit to some progressives, including the ones that voted for Jill Stein. Now, I think they voted in the wrong direction. That's my opinion. I made that clear before the election, et cetera, especially in swing states. But they said at least it might wake people up. And under Obama, and if Hillary Clinton had gotten elected, under Hillary Clinton, you'd still be asleep. You would have never heard of the raids because they happen in the middle of the night, and it's okay. It's a friendly Democratic president kicking out Latinos. And some of them deserved it. Others, I don't know. What are you going to do? It's okay. It's a Democratic president. Don't, settle down, everybody. Well, now when it's a Republican president, everybody's flipping out. You should have been flipping out all along.
All right, moving on to some other news today. A well-known KKK leader has been found dead. The KKK leader is Frank Ancona, and apparently the authorities are treating this as a homicide. In fact, they already have 2 suspects in custody, and those suspects include his wife and also his stepson. The body of Ancona was found in Leadwood, Missouri. It was discovered late Saturday on a riverbank in a rural part of the state. So an autopsy Sunday showed that he died of a gunshot wound to the head. Investigators were treating the case as a homicide, not a suicide. So just to give you a little more background information on him, he was the imperial wizard for a group called the Traditionalist American Knights of the KKK.
What was his dexterity score? These guys like to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's just hilarious because they're a group of hateful people. As you can see, they're listed as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they refer to themselves as wizards, but that's besides the point.
And dragons and all that stuff, and maybe hoblins and goblins. I don't know what they are.
Yes.
But look, I remember when the KKK was super scary. And from time to time, if you're in the wrong neck of the woods, can they still be scary? Yes. But the Freedom Riders, when they were fighting for civil rights, would ride on a bus. Lots of African Americans, but lots of white people who fought for American ideals, and they'd stop that bus in the middle of Mississippi somewhere, and the Klan would be waiting for them. And when they got off that bus, to give you a sense of the courage these guys had, the Klan would have their hoods on and would have the torches. Jeez. Back then, the Imperial Wizard was real, the dragon was real, and it was terrorism, unfortunately, at its finest, okay, and at its worst. So these are the original American terrorists. Now today, they're sitting in a basement going, oh, you want to be the wizard? No, I want to be the wizard, right? And so as soon as I saw the headline, I thought, like, KKK guy shot in the head. It's going to be someone he knows. Number one, because most crime is someone you know, right? Number two is you put a bunch of hateful people together, somebody's going to get shot.
Right. So I don't know what the motive was, and of course the story is developing, but authorities did detain his wife and stepson. They're alleging that the stepson had shot him while he was sleeping, and then his wife helped to dispose of the body, and also she tampered with evidence by cleaning the blood. Authorities went to the home and they found a ton of blood there, and so of course that's enough to detain them, and they'll probably face trial. But I'm happy that we have a sense of who the suspects are, because this is exactly the kind of story that would lead to crazy conspiracy theories, especially because of, you know, what this guy's ideology was. So he has a website, and in the website he wrote things like, "You must believe that the white race is the true chosen people of our Lord God and have dominion over all creatures of the earth as God deemed that it, the white race, should. Members should not date or be married to anyone outside the white race. The applicant must not believe in the mixing of the races and must not have mixed race children. This includes adopted or stepchildren." Okay, I wanted to read that part of his website because it always goes back to who the white women are fucking. Always.
Totally.
Always. You are not to mix with anyone who's not white. Only white men, okay? Only white men. You stay away from those sexy-ass Latinos. Stay away from that, okay?
I'm not sure that's exactly what he was saying. So, but it is funny how insecure they are. Like, so they're playing their D&D, and sorry to all the real Dungeons and Dragons fans out there. And he's like, oh, my dexterity score is this, and what was it, strength, whatever else it was, right? And so, oh, my dragon beats your wizard. And then, like, they're surprised when their women are attracted to other folks, and they're like, no, wait, we're putting a clan together.
Right.
And very important rule. First rule is, don't date anyone that isn't me, okay? Especially that guy over there who you seem to be more attracted to. Okay, so that's the goofiness here. And look, unfortunately, it has a tragic ending. And no matter what kind of wizard he was or anything, it's always terrible when somebody gets shot in the head. Do we have to clarify that? Yeah, okay? Yeah. So they found him in a ditch, and these are allegations. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see if they've got the right people here. But apparently the wife changed the story a couple of times in what she told the press and what she told the police. She's got to sort that out, and that might not be pretty.
Exactly. All right, one more story before we go to break. Nearly 200,000 people were evacuated from their homes in California due to a severe infrastructure issue that could have flooded that part of the state. About 188,000 residents in Oroville, California were ordered to evacuate Sunday after a hole in an emergency spillway in the Oroville Dam threatened to flood the surrounding area. Now, the dam itself is intact. There's no fear of it collapsing, but there are these so-called what are they called? Spillways.
Oh,
so yeah, so when there are heavy rains, they use the spillway in order to reroute the water in a different direction so it doesn't overflood or flood the area. Now, I'm an idiot, so I didn't explain that perfectly, but luckily we have a video that does, so let's take a quick look.
The massive reservoir at over 100% of capacity this weekend, engineers spotted an erosion scar near the emergency spillway. Lake Oroville holds enough water to cover the entire state of Connecticut in a foot of water. The tallest dam in the nation, a soaring 770 feet, it sits above several communities in Butte, Sutter, and Yuba counties. Oroville's primary spillway, which releases water from the reservoir to free up storage space, was damaged last week. Now a scramble to get it fixed before the next storm and more rain.
So you can see that crumbling spillway, and they're, rushing to fix it. But luckily, they managed to avoid a complete catastrophe. People are still evacuated from their homes, but the lake level reached its peak of 902.59 feet at about 3 a.m. on Sunday, and it then dropped to 898 feet by 4 a.m. Monday. Water flows over the emergency spillway at 901 feet. So they managed to avoid a complete disaster, but there are storms coming in a day or so. So they're concerned that they won't repair the spillway enough in time for these storms to hit. So people are still evacuated. We'll see how it develops.
We'll have the full link to the video that we showed in the description box so you can check it out. They did a great coverage there. And damn it, Jim, we're not scientists. We're talk show hosts. Okay, so now this shows you what we mean by infrastructure problems. So it's not theoretical, it's real. And if a bridge is too old, sometimes it falls. And if a dam is too old or hasn't been tended to enough, sometimes it breaks. And when a dam breaks, it ain't pretty. So this is just the tip of this particular iceberg. Now, if Trump is not full of it, the good news is they think it's a populist thing to do to spend $1 trillion on infrastructure. Great, deal. You got a deal. Let's go fix all those dams, roadways, bridges. Now, I know, I read into the story, they're planning to give a lot of that in construction projects to their donors. Oh, okay, but just fix the dam. Damn it, just fix it, right? So now, remember when Obama wanted to spend $600 to $700 billion, less than $1 trillion, on all of the stimulus spending, not just infrastructure, all of it, right? The Republicans were like, how dare you? This is out of control spending. Well, when you don't spend it on infrastructure, stuff like this happens. And then they come in, they're like, oh yeah, idiot, listen to us. No, we're going to spend $1 trillion on infrastructure and give it largely to our friends. But in the meanwhile, fix the dam.
Yeah,
Fix the
exactly.
dam.
Look, I don't really care who they're going to give the contracts to. Of course, they're going to give the contracts to their donors. That's just the way politics in America works. But I do like that there is a little bit of an emphasis on fixing our infrastructure and having American taxpayer money go back to Americans and benefiting us, right? So we spend so much money, invading other countries. We spend so much money on, private contractors, weapons manufacturers, and all these wars abroad. How about we spend a little bit of that money here in the United States? So I don't know, maybe he should stop trying to fearmonger about Iran for a second and focus on what he originally promised with the infrastructure.
Yeah, let's go get her done, okay?
Yes.
And by the way, one of the other things they want to do is not just give it to their donors, but they want to privatize some of the highways.
Oh my God, that'll be a disaster. Oh my God.
I know,
Oh my
I
God,
know.
please don't do that.
I know,
Please
because
don't do that.
you know why? Because then what winds up happening is you pay the bill. So their donors get the immediate money, and they put it in their pocket, and they fix the highway or whatever, and then they own the highway, and then they charge you for the rest of your life.
No, it's a disaster.
So-
Toll roads are a disaster.
If you're going to spend public money, okay, go ahead and spend it and let the public keep it. Don't privatize the dams, just fix them. Okay. All right, we got to take a break.
Please don't privatize that.
I
Okay,
know,
anyway.
I know. Okay, guys, quick break for you guys. And you know what, Jesus, when we come back, let's do a little checky check on tytnetwork.com/go, see where we're at, okay? Right back. I know what you're thinking.
I love how you do something with your lips when you play the sound clips.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look at his lips.
Adam is a woman.
No, you're closing your mouth. Usually I'll be like, and I'm like, is he like lip syncing it?
I don't know. I never noticed it until you said it.
It's a funny habit.
It's not human intelligence!
TYT member.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Hey, Jack.
I have 5 minutes. Explain the Facebook. Go. All right, back on the Young Turks. I've lost papers. We're moving on. Okay. Sierra Davis. I think most people didn't know about the raids under Obama. I know I didn't. I hear you. Annie says there's no way the KKK would play Dungeons and Dragons. 1, not smart enough. 2, not being tolerant of other races would make for a boring-ass game. Okay. The number of games have doubled, so has the number of boring asses. Okay, did you guys see my report from the blizzard? You didn't see it, did you?
No,
It wasn't a real blizzard. It was just a very normal snowstorm in New York where I got stuck last week. But it was fun. I did it like I had the snow in my hair and I was like a local news reporter. Earlier today, behind me, was a snowstorm.
Snow is so terrible.
Snow is
All
so
of it.
great.
It's so
Wrong.
bad. Like, you got to put chains on your tires.
No.
And then-
But although I almost nearly cracked my skull open.
See?
So, so you know what? I'll tell you fun snow stories too. So in the post game, this mystery card from a very relevant politician, Dave Kohler's in the front, happened 25 years ago. What is Dave's title? Who's the guy in the back? And how does it relate to today? TYT nostalgia, $1,000 for the journalism game. No, I'm kidding. By the way, Savannah Cooper bought one of the cameras, and not bought, but endowed a camera.
Wow.
And so did Steven Garcia. So those are still available. $5,000 for the cameras, for the chairs, the field cameras, and I think somebody's into this table for $10,000, but I'm not positive. And my Hope poem, still out there, original, framed, $100,000. That's it. It doesn't go to us. Goes to journalism. TYTnetwork.com/go. Let me see it. Let me see. Where are we, Jesus? 1,197,614. Can I see 1.2 by the end of the show? Can I see that? That's crazy. Of course I can.
That is crazy.
That's 18, 20 minutes from now. Let me see 1.2. Come on. 1.5 gets you special bonus. All Friday, by the way, sorry, Wednesday, 6 p.m. To past midnight. We're going to do an anniversary show for you guys. Okay, $150 from Donald from California, $127 from Margaret from Maryland. You guys rock the world. Casper, what's next?
All right. The U.S. government criticizes other countries that allow child marriages. But it turns out that here in the U.S., hundreds of thousands of young girls have gotten married over the last 10 years, and they did it legally. Now, there's an organization known as Unchained at Last, and they do studies and they look into the issue of child marriage here in the United States. And so they looked at data from 2000 to 2010, and what they found was that girls as young as 12 years old get married off here in the United States. So apparently their laws in 27 states do not specify an age below which a child cannot marry, right? So most states indicate that you have to be 18 years old in order to get married, but some states make exceptions. So for instance, if you're in Idaho and you have an underage daughter that you want to marry off, all you have to do is give the courts your consent as a parent, and that young girl can get married. Now, in 38 states, more than 167,000 children, almost all of them girls, some of them as young as 12, were married during that period, again, 2000 to 2010, mostly to men 18 or older. And that's estimated that the total number of children wed in America between 2000 and 2010 was nearly 248,000.
Wow. But I hope the mullahs who married him are happy and proud. This is one of the reasons that people sometimes give as to why we should invade Middle Eastern countries.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You know that they married off your kids. Oh, look at these pedos or pedos or whatever they are, marrying off the kids at 12, 13. Now, that's not a bad point, of course, in that that's a terrible way to conduct affairs. It's not a good point as to why we should invade them. If you think it's a good reason as to why we should invade them, West Virginia and Idaho, buckle up because we're about to invade you. And so we don't pick those states out of nowhere. Obviously, some parts of the country are more used to this than others.
Right. And look, I think that our audience is smart and they know that anytime someone uses that excuse to invade a country, it's not really about protecting young girls from child marriages. There are all sorts of other very corrupt reasons why we invade other countries. But here in the United States, this is an issue that you see in various religions. It's not just Muslims or Christians, you also see this trend with some Orthodox Jews as well. So it doesn't matter what the religion is. You see it with fundamentalists in the country. Also, at least 31% of these girls were married to a spouse aged 21 years or older, which is insane. Some children were married at an age or with a spousal age difference that constitutes statutory rape under their state's laws.
So that's the most important part. So look, some of these, I understand 18-year-old guys getting married to a 17-year-old girl, and the world's not going to end. Now, I think that is way too young to get married, but that's like my opinion, man, and it's a free country. And so their parents give them consent, and it's not a federal issue, okay? Now, if you have someone above the age of 21 marrying someone as low as 12, 13, et cetera, and that is actually statutory rape, unless the parents give consent for that to happen, then we've got a real issue.
This is insane. This is honestly crazy. And look, the reason why you see this happen among more religious families is because the girl will be underage, she'll get pregnant, right? And so they're worried about their family's honor. You see that same kind of argument being made here in the US. And so, oh, well, we don't want to be embarrassed as a family, so you have to marry the person who got you pregnant. There was a story highlighted in the Miami Herald involving an underage girl who was raped, and her family pressured her to marry the person who raped her because she got pregnant. And so these types of stories sound so hideous, and you think that they wouldn't really happen here in the US, but they do. They happen, and it goes underreported, and I'm glad that there's an organization that's looking into this and investigating it.
Yes, and the other reason is in the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Quran, the whole thing is get married right away and have as many kids as you can, because Yahweh and God and Allah all need a bigger army. So go ahead and procreate like crazy, but you got to do it within marriage. So get married as quickly as you can and have as many kids as possible. So that's why you'll see a lot of Mormons too, by the way, get married young. And the more religious you are, the more likely you are to get married young, because that's the propaganda.
Yep.
Whereas rational secular people wait to see if they've got a decent match and have their feet under them, so you can see where my proclivities lie. I mean, to be fair, I got married at 38, so maybe I'm a little on the late side, right? But look, there's one thing when it comes to, hey, you get married whenever you like, and I don't think the whole idea of pressuring people into marriage when they're really young is a good idea. I think it's a terrible idea, but it's another thing when you have issues that involve statutory rape. So religion doesn't make that go away.
Right.
That's the real problem.
And also, girls who get married at an extremely young age suffer a lot of health and psychological issues. So apparently women who marry at 18 or younger face a 23% higher risk of heart attack, diabetes, cancer, and stroke than women who marry between the ages of 19 and 25. That's partly because early marriage can lead to added stress and forfeited education. Look, you have your entire life to be stressed out by your spouse. Just, you know? So I know that in this case, these young girls don't feel like they have an option because their parents are pressuring them into doing this. But if you can hold off as long as you can, right? Like 30 is a good age for women to get married. Like 35 maybe.
And by the way, one of the ways that they use to trick people into getting married younger, and I say trick obviously again based on my opinions, but is that is they say, well, you can't have sex until you're married.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get these horny teenagers who are like, oh, like they're bursting at the seams. They're like, I'm fine, I'll get married right away. Right? It's, in a lot of ways, the oldest trick in the book. In this case, literally, the good book, if you will, if you think. So let them, can you imagine, like for the rest of us in the rational world, you know, you get married at 30, 38, 27, whatever it is, don't have sex until marriage. Okay, whatever, dude. It's like the same thing with the suicide guys, right? The ones who hand you the suicide belt, you just go, you first, right? The guys who say, hey, don't have sex until you're 27 or 38, you first, big guy. All right, you do you, and we'll do us.
Yes. All right.
We'll do us sounds funny and weird.
It does. I just wanted to move on from it.
Okay, all right.
Just not dwell on it at all.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
All right. All right, let's talk a little bit more about immigration. The Atlantic had an interesting hypothesis in regard to Donald Trump's wall along the Mexican border and how there could be some unintended consequences that maybe the Trump administration hasn't really thought about.
No.
It could actually lead to less people leaving the United States. So it starts off with this premise that, hey, it turns out that data indicates more immigrants are leaving the country than coming in. So net immigration from Mexico is actually at an all-time low as a result of the Great Recession. But if you build this wall, people who would have otherwise left might not leave because it'll be even more difficult to come back to the U.S., right? So this is an interesting theory. I want to hash it out a little bit. Now, they gave a little bit of history in regard to border security. Prior to 1986, it was actually a very porous border. It was easy to come in and come out. So a lot of undocumented immigrants, men to be specific, would come into the United States, they would work for a short period of time, and then they would go back to their families. And then things changed under the Reagan administration. So the increased fortification of the border wall after 1986 also altered the demographics of migration. Once men realized that they would settle in the United States because they couldn't go back and forth, they encouraged their wives and children to head north with them. So incredibly, Reagan's tough stance on immigration led to more undocumented immigrants in the country.
Yes, and we have this view of Reagan as a total right-winger, and he was in many respects. But remember, his stance on immigration was not that tough. He's the guy who did amnesty. So not kind of amnesty, not pretend amnesty, actual amnesty for every undocumented immigrant that was in the country at the time.
Right.
So by today's standards, they would consider that so far liberal that you couldn't get elected in a Democratic primary.
Exactly.
Right.
So now, fast forward to 2008, the recession hits, and after 2008, more Mexicans started returning to Mexico from the United States than those who crossed the border north. So the slow recovery of the U.S. economy after 2008 and the decreasing number of jobs available to immigrants made the United States less attractive. Fewer migrants sought to risk their lives at the border to come, and those who were already here but still had family members in Mexico returned home to be with them, right? So now there might be people who felt like maybe it's a good idea to leave, but they realize, maybe I should sit it out, because if it's going to be really difficult to come back into the country, then I'm just going to risk it by staying here and not leaving, and we'll see what happens as the economy improves. And it has been improving. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting theory, but what I take away from this story that apparently no one else in the media takes away is the fact that more Mexicans are leaving than coming into the country. Why are we going to spend billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars on a border wall that is such a huge waste of money? Also tunnels.
Well,
easy.
And tunnels.
Tunnels.
Okay, so I wanted to give you credit here. You're the one who's been pounding the drum on this issue, saying they're leaving. If you build a wall, they won't be able to leave. Okay, and Anna said this a long time ago, not only on this show, but on CNN and other places. And every time she says it, people are like, oh, I didn't know that. So they now looked into this a little bit more. So there's two layers to this, right? First, they're thinking, if the wall gets built, I won't be able to come back in, so maybe I should stay. The second part will be when they actually build a wall. Now, we probably won't get there because Trump's incompetence, he won't be able to finish the wall, is my best guess. But if he did, then they'd literally be trapped. So right now, I read a story just in passing, I don't have the details for you guys here, that there was an immigrant center in Canada that had to temporarily stop because there was too many immigrants coming in from America.
Wow.
Okay, so people are fleeing in all directions. And so if you build a wall, the Mexicans can't get out.
Right. Now, some might argue, no, they're not going to give them a tough time if they're trying to leave the country. But remember, Trump believes in detaining these individuals in detention centers, like giving them essentially a prison sentence before deporting them.
And if you're thinking, wait, he wanted to get them out of the country, why would he even keep them here? Because they're private prisons.
Yes.
And they make a buck off of it. So that's the situation going on here. But so this will play out in a lot of different directions. But for the moment being, without the wall being built, people are, some of them, of course, want to stay. A lot of them want to stay. And they're staying put because they don't want to risk leaving and not being able to come back.
That's right.
So yes, counterintuitive and exact opposite of what Trump supporters wanted, where now undocumented immigrants are making sure that they stay.
Exactly. All right, one final story for you. Democratic lawmakers in California are looking to pass legislation that would roll back penalties for people who have HIV or AIDS and knowingly transmit it to other people. Now, on its face, this sounds like a really bad idea, especially when you consider that knowingly transmitting the virus is a felony. They want to roll it back to a misdemeanor. So under California's newly introduced Senate Bill 239, intentionally transmitting any infectious or communicable disease, including HIV, would be a misdemeanor, not a felony. Now, the thinking behind this is, well, why do we have a double standard? When it comes to other sexually transmitted diseases, it's considered a misdemeanor if you knowingly transmit it, but we treat AIDS or HIV very differently. It's considered a felony. And they feel that it's a discriminatory policy that needs to be reformed. They think it, of course, attacks the LGBT community and disproportionately, and so we need to do something to change it. But I don't know. What do you think about this?
Mixed feelings. So one, HIV is potentially lethal, making it different, a rational reason to make it different than the other diseases. And secondly, the idea of knowingly transmitting it is so heinous. Who would do that to another person and be indifferent to their lives? Now, the flip side is, in reality and in practice, are they more likely to use it against people that are in the LGBT community? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why you really got to put a lot of thought behind it before you make different rules for different diseases.
Yeah, so let me show you how in California it disproportionately impacts minorities and women as opposed to white males. Okay, so according to the Movement Advancement Project, an LGBT-focused think tank, 38 states have HIV-specific laws like the ones SB 239 would repeal. And in another 6, people have been prosecuted for a crime based on their HIV status. Now let's take a look at what happens in California. White males who are 40% of HIV-positive Californians accounted for only 16% of those who came into contact with the criminal justice system.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so of course you look at the numbers and it disproportionately impacts women, which is incredible. According to the Williams Institute study, less than 13% of HIV-positive Californians are women, but women account for 43% of criminal justice proceedings based on HIV-positive status. So look, I think that shows that the justice system needs to be reformed, but I disagree with rolling back the penalties for knowingly transmitting a lethal disease, right? Look, and people will make the argument that, oh, well, medicine has advanced so much that, you know, contracting HIV is not a death sentence. No, it's not a death sentence if you have the resources and the means to get the drugs necessary to stay alive. Vast majority of people don't have the resources for that. So yes, for a lot of people, it's a death sentence.
Yeah,
I think it should be a felony. I think we need to reform the justice system and make sure that the law is applied evenly. But to say, like, no, let's roll back the penalties for it is crazy.
It's really complicated. So first, you know, selective prosecution is one of the great untold stories in this country. And that's where you see a lot of the racism, sexism, etc. So men inflicting their power upon women. And we've talked about it in a lot of ways, right? And one of them is, well, you know, if you've got AIDS, we're more likely to, and you did it on purpose, we're more likely to blame you and not the guy, right? And it goes back to what? The Bible. You see, Eve made us eat the apple and we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And see, she made me have sex with her.
Yeah.
And then I got AIDS and it's her fault. Let's go prosecute. Now, it happens, you know, disproportionately to women. It does.
Let me add one other caveat that I think is important to mention. It does disproportionately impact women because the women who, you know, spread the disease are more likely to work in the sex industry.
And so they have less power.
Yeah.
So that's another part of the equation. So all these go into effect. And why white men get prosecuted less than others on a case about AIDS? Why about this? Again, usually in a position of power. So they're not going to be exposed to the criminal justice system as much as minorities are.
Right.
So that get exposed for many different reasons, and then sometimes have charges added on, or have no power to defend themselves, etc. Okay, now finally back to the issue of should there be two different rules? Well, look, syphilis could kill you. And now, these days, very unlikely, but certainly in the old days, turns your junk green, and a lot of folks have lost their minds and have died from syphilis. So it is potentially a lethal disease. And if there was no selective prosecution, then I would say, all right, let's make rational laws, which ones are lethal, which ones are not. But knowing that there is this level of selective prosecution out there, are they then more likely to target LGBT community, et cetera, with these laws? Yes. So overall, I'd say, even though I think it's a horrible, horrible thing to do, and it sounds more important than a misdemeanor, given how it could be prosecuted in the real world, I'd say misdemeanor for all of them.
Disagree.
We disagree. And sometimes that's what happens on the show. All right. You're making them all a felony?
I don't know if I would make them all a felony, but knowingly spreading a sexually transmitted disease, especially one that is lethal, I think should be considered a felony.
Man, there's going to be a lot of fine lines in there.
Yeah. Well, you're playing with people's lives, though.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, no. Oh, it's an interesting story. Okay. It's interesting. Okay, we are out of time. Members get more show, though. tytnetwork.com/join. Find out the mystery behind the business card and what happened to it 25 years ago.
Okay.
And snow.
Snow. I have some snow stories.
Okay, so do I. I was just stuck in a snowstorm in New York. I'll tell you all about the unintended consequences of that. Bye-bye.